Now, what's wrong with being the nice guy? Nice guys tend to be fundamentally dishonest. We're trying to become what we think other people want us to be, so we'll be liked and loved and get our needs met and maybe get laid. So that means we're not really being us. We're wearing a mask. We're being a chameleon to get approval. And we hide anything about us that we think might get a negative reaction. And so that might be our needs, our wants, our thoughts, our opinions, our desires, our sexuality. So everything's hidden. So we tend to not be very honest, very authentic, very transparent, very vulnerable. Nice guys can be really passive aggressive because we operate with what I call covert contracts. We give to get. I do this for you. You'll do this for me, but you don't know there's a contract. Then I get frustrated and resentful and I take it out on you because you didn't do what I wanted. Sometimes that even builds up into what my ex used to call a victim puke, where it would all just come out. She used to ask me, how long has that been bothering you? I don't know, 6 months maybe? She goes, did you ever think to just tell me about it? No, didn't even cross my mind that was a good idea.
Welcome to the Heart of Man podcast, a podcast for any man seeking to live in alignment with his deepest core and lead a life of profound meaning and connection. I'm your host, Alex Lehman, and I'm here to empower you through transformative conversations, eye-opening insights, and practical wisdom. Join me now as we venture into the heart of man. Let's dive in. Dr. Robert Glover is a renowned therapist, speaker, coach, and the author of the best-selling book, No More Mr. Nice Guy. Over the last 4 decades, Dr. Glover has been shedding light on the phenomenon he describes as nice guy syndrome and has helped countless men across the globe in the realms of life, sex, and relating. Now, you may ask yourself, what's the problem with being a nice guy? Well, this is something that Dr. Glover and I explore deeply in this conversation. We come to explore his own journey of discovering his nice guy tendencies, how nice guys are formed, and why this protective strategy is a terrible foundation to initiate a relationship from. From there, we transition into a deep dive around love and relating. For anybody who's listening in, I highly encourage you to listen into the end, where he shares his own insights around heartbreak that left a lasting impact on me. When I first envisioned this podcast, one of my dreams was to have Dr. Glover come on my show, as he's profoundly impacted my own life through his book and work. And I did my best not to shy away from my own anxiety and shame that kicked in as soon as Robert agreed to come on my show, which led to a beautiful discussion on how we can move through internalized shame and soothe our anxiety. Having spent an hour and a half in conversation with him, I can confidently say that he didn't disappoint, and I deeply admired his humility, authenticity, humor, and welcoming nature. This was an incredibly insightful conversation, and I highly recommend tuning into this interview with a man who, after 4 decades of working with other men, still is going stronger than ever. And now, without further ado, join us for an uninterrupted discussion with Dr. Glover and I. All right, everybody, welcome back yet to another episode at the Heart of Man. I have an incredible special guest on today, someone I feel very humbled and honored to sit with today. He's a man who has definitely changed my own life with his groundbreaking book, No More Mr. Nice Guy, and as well has helped countless individuals around the globe. He's a renowned therapist, author, and expert in the realms of men's development and relationships. Dr. Robert Glover, I welcome you to the Heart of Man.
Alex, thanks for the invitation. Good to be here.
This is definitely a conversation that I'm thrilled to have with you. And I just want to name that when I was first introduced to No More Mr. Nice Guy, it kind of felt like you brought me into my closet and you turned on the light and then you just showed me how there was all this junk and all this shit that I really haven't looked at yet. And truthfully, there was a huge awkwardness. There was a huge level of shame, I'm going to say, just to become aware of the fact of all the things that were still present. So I'm sure you hear that actually a lot.
Well, actually, that was all my shit I was showing you because No More Mr. Nice Guy, I tell people it's my autobiography. I just use other people's stories to tell it. So yeah, that was my shit. You don't have to worry about it. You don't let go of the shame.
Absolutely. And shame is definitely one of those conversations that I would love to get into. So for anybody who doesn't necessarily know your work yet, I would just first of all love to hear, how did you first come introduced to this concept, and what is the problem in general about being a nice guy?
All right. Two questions there. The first part of the book kind of leads with that. You know, so what's wrong with being a nice guy? Because most people think, well, being a nice guy is a good thing. So we'll come back to that in a minute. My pathway is that pretty much where this story begins, I was about 2 years into my second marriage. And my then wife said to me, everybody thinks you're such a nice guy, but you're not. You can be passive aggressive, you can be mean. I can think everything's okay, and then you blow up about something that I don't even know is bothering you. I can't trust you. You can embarrass me. I just go. So you need help, and I'm thinking I'm a nice guy. Why do I need help? I'm thinking you're the one who's unhappy all the time and always angry and never wants to have sex anymore. Okay. I didn't want to lose the marriage. So I said, okay, I'll go get help. And so, well, you're a sex addict. You need to go work on that. And so I went to a group for sex addicts, a 12-step group, and quickly found out I wasn't having enough sex to be a sex addict. But it was almost the perfect place for me to land because it was all guys. So it was my first men's group. And talk about shame. This was so cool because I'd go there, and for the first time in my life, I would just start revealing me, being vulnerable, talking about things I never talked about. And I grew up in a fundamental Christian church, kind of with a capricious God that will cast you into hell for all eternity just because he feels like it. A father with some of those same tendencies. I never knew what mood he'd be in when I'd get home. And I grew up like during the angry feminism of the 60s and 70s, that every man's a rapist and an erection's a sign of aggression. Listened to my mother complain about my dad and men since I was little, listening to all the girls in junior high complain about men. And so here I was always trying to be different, not be that guy and be the good guy. And so I got in this 12-step group, and no matter what I said and shared, things I'd never talked about, thoughts, feelings, actions, impulses, the strongest reaction I ever got was, thanks for sharing, Robert. Like nobody was freaked out. I mean, and some of those guys had some pretty gnarly stuff going on. And so I really enjoyed that, to go and just talk about stuff I'd never told anybody. And it felt so liberating. This group met like at 5 a.m, if I remember right. Maybe it was 6. It was early. I looked forward once a week to getting up and going to that group. I got into therapy at the same time, kind of started working. I already had a PhD in marriage and family therapy at this time, but I'd never been to therapy. And so started looking at, a lot of my patterns and issues, got into a men's group led by a woman therapist who'd written several books on sexual shame, was in that group for 5-6 years, probably. That's when I really did my deep work around nice guy. That's where I started writing No More Mr. Nice Guy. And so I was working on all these issues in myself, lack of honesty, lack of boundaries. I didn't even know about boundaries till a therapist showed me an example. Again, I was in my 30s, in my second marriage, already had a PhD. I'd never heard of boundaries. Started learning about making my needs a priority, connecting with men. And so, a lot of these pieces started coming together just in my own personal work. And as a marriage and family therapist, guys were coming to me for therapy, often with a wife or girlfriend or on their own. And they were saying the same thing I've been saying. I'm a nice guy. I'm one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. I treat her better than her ex. I'm raising her kids. I give her everything she wants. It's never enough. She's never happy. When's it going to be my turn? She never wants to have sex anymore. And then there were the single guys who would say, oh, I've lots of female friends. They all think I'm great, and they all tell me their problems. They all talk to me about the jerk they're all in love with, and they all tell me what a nice guy I am and how some lucky woman is going to be so lucky to have me someday, but they don't want me as their boyfriend. What's wrong? They say they want a nice guy, but they don't want me. So I thought, man, I'm not the only one with this paradigm, this roadmap, this idea that if I'm just nice, I'll be liked and loved and get my needs met, and everything will go well. So I started a No More Mr. Nice Guy men's group, soon started another, started writing just chapters or lessons to give to the guys, just what I was learning about my own work. I'm curious. I'm introspective. I like to understand shit. So, I'm kind of taking me apart and looking at how did I become a nice guy, looking at these other guys, learning from them. And over a period, probably 6-7 years of just writing, eventually turned that into a book. Then it took about 3 years to get it published. A lot of publishers said, Robert, we like your book, but our marketing department says men won't buy a self-help book. I bet you buy self-help books, right? You probably have a few stacked
Yeah,
around there.
absolutely.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
This was kind of pre-Amazon and podcast where, you listen to a podcast and some guy's talking about his book, and you go on Amazon and you buy the book, and it says people bought this book, this book, and this book. So guys buy all those books. We may not read them, but at least we buy them. So that was 20 some years ago of major publishing companies saying, men won't buy a self-help book. The book's been around 20 plus years now. Royalty checks keep getting bigger every year. So men buy self-help books, and they're buying No More Mr. Nice Guy. So that's my story about how I came to be kind of the guru of nice guy syndrome. It's my story. I'm still a recovering nice guy. I'm still observing patterns in my life and learning. I'm still working, with hundreds of men, around nice guy syndrome. Now, what's wrong with being the nice guy? Kind of all those things I mentioned that I wasn't good at. Nice guys tend to be fundamentally dishonest. We're trying to become what we think other people want us to be, so we'll be liked and loved and get our needs met and maybe get laid. So that means we're not really being us. We're wearing a mask. We're being a chameleon to get approval. And we hide anything about us that we think might get a negative reaction. And so that might be our needs, our wants, our thoughts, our opinions, our desires, our sexuality. So everything's hidden. So we tend to not be very honest, very authentic, very transparent, very vulnerable. Nice guys can be really passive aggressive because we operate with what I call covert contracts. We give to get. I do this for you. You'll do this for me, but you don't know there's a contract. Then I get frustrated and resentful, and I take it out on you because you didn't do what I wanted. Sometimes that even builds up into what my ex used to call a victim puke, where it would all just come out. She used to ask me, how long has that been bothering you? Well, I don't know, 6 months maybe. She goes, did you ever think to just tell me about it? No, didn't even cross my mind that was a good idea. So there's a lot of seeking approval, avoidance of conflict, avoidance of being truthful, a lot of hidden, secretive behaviors, often passive aggressive, can be out and out angry and abusive. And often we're not real happy. And so there's just a lot of baggage that goes with that.
There's so much that you said here, Robert, and I'm curious to hear, what is it about this, I'm going to say, maladaptive strategy? What are we trying to prevent, or how is it keeping us safe? And I'm curious as well to hear, because I heard you as well speak about the fact that the reason why nice guys are formed is because they've actually never had the opportunity to truly differentiate. So I'm curious to hear how does that impact the development of a nice guy?
All right, well, let's talk about human development 101 then. So let's go way back. When we come into this world, every child is completely helpless, dependent, needy, vulnerable. I remember in Child Development 101, kind of the first thing I remember hearing, my biggest takeaway, is that for every child, abandonment means death. And coupled with that, children are inherently narcissistic, not in the way that everybody describes, their ex on social media, but they do believe the world revolves around them. Therefore, they are the cause of everything that happens to them, for good or for bad. And so every uncomfortable or painful experience a child has at that very immature state gets internalized, and then it feels frightening. It feels scary. And children with this very primitive mind, all we're really operating on at that point is our brain stem, which has the amygdala, and that's our fight, freeze. So it's just survival. Prefrontal cortex, not even developed yet, doesn't finish developing in men until about age 25. And that's our reasoning part. So in a very emotional way, we have to find ways to deal with extreme discomfort. Maybe we're hungry and nobody feeds us. We mess in our diaper and nobody changes us. We're cold and nobody wraps us up. We're lonely and nobody holds us. We have gas and nobody burps us. All of that is a death experience for a child. It's just painful with no way of knowing, how long this is going to last. It's just everything is right now. Everything is feeling. So every human child does two things at a very primitive level. This is kind of about, maybe a very small mammal's capacity to figure things out. There's no rational thinking. It's just adjusting to emotional states. So every child from this very primitive place tries to do two things: comfort the discomfort they're feeling right now. Okay. So baby may cry to feel better. They may eat to feel better. They may sleep to feel better. They may smile to feel better. They may scream. They may become needless and wallous. I sucked my thumb till I was in kindergarten. Think I was dealing with uncomfortable feelings? Probably. That was my comfort. So we find these very primitive ways to try to manage the uncomfortable states we feel in the now. Again, with no reasoning at all. The second thing that every infant tries to do is to try to prevent those painful experiences from happening again. If you have a dog, if you've ever had a dog, if something happens to the dog that's painful, it's scary, if they've been kicked a few times, well, they get flinch and they don't go places where they might get kicked, right? So all animals are that way. If you have painful experiences, you try to avoid that happening again. So when we were very immature, we developed these survival mechanisms of trying to manage uncomfortable feelings in the now, prevent them in the future. We then start growing up. And even though as we grow up and we get more sophisticated in our way of relating to the world, we get more mobile, more verbal, we can learn, we can socialize, we're still operating from those basic guiding principles, but they're very unconscious. We're not aware of them. And so we go through life operating with that: how do I feel better in the now? And how do I prevent bad feelings from happening in the future? We bring that into school, relationship, junior high, everything we do as we grow, we bring those two things that we developed when we were just 2 weeks old, 2 months old, 2 years old. So we bring that with us and we don't know it. Right? We don't know we're doing these things. We're just doing what our brain has just always done, what our nervous system has always done. So there's a multitude of ways that manifests in every human. It manifests uniquely in you, in me, in a partner you might have, partner I might have, in everybody. Nice guy syndrome is just one way that this manifests. And it typically manifests, like I said, in trying to become what we think other people want us to be liked and loved and get our needs met, and hide anything that's going to get a negative reaction. And then we, of course, find all these other things we do to try to manage our anxiety and shame in the now, whether it's addictions, alcohol, marijuana, food, television, internet, social media, pornography. We've got all those other ways to try to manage our discomfort in the now. And then we just go through life. That's what we're doing, managing discomfort, usually with hidden behaviors, and trying to make sure we never get hurt again in the future. So this plays out really interestingly when you try to get into relationship with this big defensive armor on that you've developed over the years to protect yourself from getting hurt, because relationships are painful. Anybody you meet has their own defensive armor on them as well. And probably you both have some offensive weaponry as well. A lightsaber, a sharp tongue, your intellect, your mood, your anger, whatever. I'll keep them at bay with this. And then we go try to get love. So I don't know if that answered the specific questions you answered, but that's what happens to everybody from birth until adulthood.
Yeah, no, this was really helpful. And I think it just provides as well a lot of support for the listeners here, just to have a general stage for understanding of human development, and just to understand how these strategies even come to be. And two, I'm going to say, emotions that I hear you often speak about is that nice guys often experience internalized shame and anxiety, and that our mechanisms are really, they operate as guardrails to support us in actually not coming into contact or touching those aspects of us.
Yeah, and that's a good way to put it.
As I see it, I'm curious to hear one pathway to really outgrow nice guy syndrome is really about learning how to soothe ourselves properly. So I'm wondering, what does that journey look like to really move through the internalized shame and as well soothe the anxiety that we may experience? And, just to as well be quite upfront here, just to be in conversation with you here, Robert, I noticed that there was all these layers as well coming alive for me around like my nice guy syndrome, feeling like this shame around, well, who the fuck am I to have a conversation with Dr. Glover? Oh my God, I need to get things perfect.
Yeah.
The audio wasn't working
Yeah.
when we started. I was like, oh shit, what is going on here? So there's all these things that are alive, and the listeners will have
because
their
you're
own.
human. Yeah, you're human.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
we were struggling to get the technology to work right, to get going. And about the time we started, it did cross my mind. I thought, well, you might have some anxiety about all of this. And I understand because, I've launched my own men's program, and we do a once a month interview. And, when I look at people that I want to invite on an interview, I have varying levels of anxiety. Oh, yeah, this person, I know them. They'll come on and do it. This person, oh, they're in demand. They're better known. They're like, they've got a big following. And I go, all right, I'm going for it. But yeah, there's an anxiety with that. Kind of like, who am I? You're going, who am I? Well, I'm going, who am I? And all of them are going, who am I? So it's just human. It's human. So to talk about your questions of shame and anxiety, it's a good question. When I was working on my own recovery, No More Mr. Nice Guy, learning about nice guy syndrome over the years it took me to write it, a piece that I really was diving into was the idea of toxic shame. And I tell the story. I remember pretty early in my marriage to my second wife, she was really a therapy junkie, self-help junkie, self-help book, junkie. She loved all that, which was good because, it gave me a big push because I wasn't. Like I said, I already had a doctorate in marriage and family therapy, but never been to therapy. I think I'd read The Road Less Traveled, which is a really good book, but, I wasn't really into. So I remember she'd be reading to me from John Bradshaw's Healing the Shame That Binds You. And she'd read and she'd go, oh, yeah, yeah. I go, what? She'd go, oh, this is you. I go, what? And she'd read it to me. And I'll go, he's talking about shame. That's you. I go, that actually sounds like you. You hate yourself. I don't hate myself, but you do. And she goes, no, that's you. And I go, I'm not even sure what that means. So again, I had a PhD, and I'm not an unintelligent person, but I had a hard time grasping what shame was. And
why is that, Robert? If I can just jump in, like, what is it about these patterns that makes them so insidious that we don't actually see them? I mean, you had a PhD, you were a therapist. How is it that you don't know about your own patterns and as well don't know about boundaries, all these things?
Because nobody teaches us. That's why. So here's the deal. That's a good question, because here's the thing: is that toxic shame gets internalized in lots of different ways depending on the person. And like I said, at first I couldn't even understand what the concept meant, let alone understanding what toxic shame I had. So I'll tell you a story and then I'll come back to this. As I began working with nice guys, I assumed maybe all of them that I was working with were maybe a lot like me. Had similar patterns, maybe similar family issues, similar manifestations. I quickly learned that while we may have a lot of commonalities, a lot of differences as well. One of the biggest differences I discovered over time in nice guys is two types of nice guys. This is a shame-related issue. One is the I'm so good nice guy. That's me. I'm thinking, I'm a great guy. Everybody should want to be like me. Everybody should like me. I don't do anything wrong. I'm good. And my shame was actually so pushed down in this airtight, sealed little compartment, way out of touch, way out of awareness, that I didn't even know that there was that thing driving me to try to get approval and be good. But why would you seek approval, try to be good, try to be nice, try to get people to like you, if you didn't already feel there's something about you that wasn't likable, lovable, or okay? But it was way out of conscious awareness. Now, the second kind of nice guy is the I'm so bad nice guy. This guy's experience is very much different than the I'm so good nice guy, even though they're both nice guys and relate to the paradigm and, work together in the same men's group to work on their shit. The I'm so bad nice guy typically grew up not looking like such a nice kid. Often ADHD, maybe addictive family, abusive family. Maybe they're acting out, getting in trouble, couldn't sit still in class. never remember to do stuff, knocking stuff off, getting scolded, getting punished, going to the principal's office, starting to do drugs and alcohol, 12, 14 years old, maybe dropping out of high school, just hell on wheels, and often oppositionally defiant. And their shame is just huge. Now, they go through life with this shame, but something happens. They go in the military, or they get married, or have a kid, or find Jesus. Something happens that they go, I can't keep fucking up like this. I got to get my life together. So they start trying to be good. They start trying to be a nice guy. Now, so they look a lot like the I'm so good nice guys, but their shame is right up here. It is, they just know. They're just one slip up away from everybody knowing what a fuck up they are. So their shame's up here. Now, but both guys have shame. Now, the challenge is for the I'm so good nice guy to access his shame. The problem for the I'm so bad nice guy is kind of to let go of it. It's almost their identity. Right? You relate to that one. It's an identity. Tough to let go. So as I'm working on, working with nice guys, working on No More Mr. Nice Guy, most of the book, No More Mr. Nice Guy, is built around a foundation that toxic shame is a core dynamic in nice guy syndrome. And in the book, I talk about you have to find safe people. You didn't become a nice guy in social isolation. You did internalize toxic shame in social isolation. You always internalize shame in context of other people. Am I good enough? Or am I bad? And so, and all this shame is inaccurately internalized. It's not the truth of who we are, but we believe it's the truth, whether it's way down here or way up here. Okay. So just like when I went to that 12-step group and started revealing things about me I'd never revealed, we call that vulnerability. It's like that just felt liberating to just start letting these things out. So now I don't actually have to work so hard to try to become what I think other people want me to be, because I'm not feeling like I have to. I'm not hiding things about me. And the great thing was I'd go and tell the group about something, and they go, oh, thanks for sharing, Robert. Then I'd go tell my therapist the same thing, and she'd say, all right, well, let's explore what that means. I mean, no shame, no guilt, no, you're a terrible person for that. And then I'd go tell my then wife, and she'd go, oh, okay, that kind of scares me, but I'm glad you told me. And then she'd never bring it up again. I'm thinking, wow, this vulnerability thing, this letting go of shame thing, that's pretty cool. And I really, it really did feel good. And so, but you got to do this with safe people. You can't begin it typically with your girlfriend, your wife, your mother. You have to go do it with people that can hear you, not have this reaction. Oh my God, you did that? That's terrible. You're horrible. You're going to hell for all eternity. Who will actually say, actually that's pretty normal. Or actually I hear that all the time. Or you were just a kid. Or, how was that affected you carrying that shame? And then give you more accurate feedback of who you really are, right? And so you've got to do that with safe people. Again, it could be a best friend, could be a coach, a therapist, 12-step group, men's group, minister, rabbi, but it's got to be somebody that is not going to reshame you for whatever you tell. So I'll give you another quick example of a guy who came to a workshop with me one time. This has been several years ago. And this is an African-American guy, pretty tall, and lived in the Pacific Northwest. So, African-Americans kind of have a different culture in the Northwest U.S. than they do in Southern U.S. But because he was a big black guy, he was really afraid that people would be intimidated by him. And so he'd be kind of, pretty passive, and he got into relationships. When I started working with him, he had a girlfriend that just treated him like shit. And he just took it. So anyway, he comes to this week-long workshop, and we're talking about shame. And he just starts crying. And I said, what's up? And he said, I just feel like just such a terrible person. And I go, tell us. And I said, can you give us an example of what you feel so shameful about? So he tells this group of like 8, 10 guys, like when he was, 14, 15 years old, he stole a car stereo out of a neighbor's car. And since that event, he's been riddled with shame. I'm such a terrible, I mean, he's sobbing as he tells us. And then, which makes sense why he'd get into a relationship with a woman that just kept treating him bad because I'm a bad person. So he's crying, and the guys are all just looking at him with compassion. And they go, really? That's it? Yeah, I feel like I'm a terrible human being. And they go, you want to hear our stories? And then they tell stories that are just as bad or worse, just like a dumb shit that 14-year-olds do, and everybody's going, that's just a dumb 14-year-old thing to do, and he goes, really? I'm not a terrible person? He left that workshop, broke up with that girlfriend, wrote me about 6 months later, started dating a therapist who treated him like gold. And he said, I've never been happier, all because of that one event of letting go of something that he'd been packing around since he was 14. Now, odds are his toxic shame began much earlier than that. That was just, a story that he could attach his shame to. But letting go of the story let him let go of a lot of shame. And from there, the shame just kind of then just flows. It just comes out. And you just begin to live free. One of the things that people tell me, like in my workshops and my courses and interviews, people all say, Robert, I appreciate your authenticity. I appreciate your transparency. But I promise you, 35 years ago, nobody would have accused me of being authentic. I was that chameleon trying to get and it just feels good to just be you, warts and all, and just know if not everybody likes you the way you are, that's okay. Because plenty of people do like you the way you are, if you will just let them see the you that you are. So there's the shame part of nice guy syndrome. Now, as I was completing the book and kind of, getting it out there for publication, I also began to realize in working, I was leading 5 men's groups a week at one time, 5 No More Mr. Nice Guy groups. So you're really still learning a lot. I'm still learning a lot about nice guys, 30 years after beginning this work. And I started realizing that for not only were men managing their shame, they were managing their anxiety. And they would manage their anxiety, again, by the conflict avoidance, the approval seeking, not bringing up things that might upset anybody, dishonesty, hiding stuff about themselves. And so I began working with men more in general around learning to what I call soothe our anxiety rather than manage it. Managing anxiety is when you try to you either don't take whatever action scares you. So you do nothing. That's one way of managing anxiety. The other way is you try to manage people and situations outside of you to get them to be different so you don't have to feel your anxiety, right?
Yeah, that's like a way of controlling your experience and your environment.
Yeah, it'd be like guys say, well, I have anxiety of approaching pretty women to ask them out on a date. So wouldn't it be just better if women just, did all the approach? If women did do the approach, but the guy would probably still have tons of anxiety. Soothing anxiety is when you're able to calm your nervous system enough to take action that take you out of your comfort zone and still go act regardless of what's happening, regardless if you feel anxious about talking to a pretty woman, regardless if you feel anxious about asking, somebody, you think, might turn you down to come on your show. Me too. You take the action anyway and you soothe yourself and you go, I'll handle it. No matter what happens, I'll handle it. Maybe you learn to ground yourself. Breath is just the most powerful way I know to soothe anxiety. Just kind of get solid. When I do interviews like this, when I'm talking with clients on Zoom, frequently I kind of check in with myself, get both feet flat on the ground. I'm almost always barefoot. I just feel the ground under my feet, kind of get solid in my chair. This is all, the person can't see me doing it. They might notice it. They might feel it energetically. And then I just kind of slow my breath down, diaphragmatic, just nice, easy belly breaths, kind of shoulders back. I check in and I do that periodically. I do it when I'm fighting with my wife. I do it anytime that there's a stressful situation. And it just calms your nervous system down. It regulates your oxygen to CO2 levels to where it doesn't trigger your sympathetic nervous system, which narrows focus, puts you in fight, flight, freeze. That breath puts you in your parasympathetic system. Now you and I want to be a little bit in our sympathetic nervous system right now. We want to be a little bit focused. Just both of us are right here. We want to have some of that adrenaline and cortisol and dopamine, keeping us here. Now, but when it's done, we're probably going to want to relax, be more at ease. enjoy, a friend, a partner, have a nice meal. So we got to be able to get back into our parasympathetic nervous system. And just getting grounded, solid, getting into breath, it's just how we go about doing that. Maybe put on some good music, maybe, just do something that's pleasurable to you. So helping nice guys, because I say pretty much everything a nice guy does is trying to manage his shame and manage his anxiety. And if we can go find safe places to release shame, there's one burden, one emotional burden. That's a lot of energy to keep all that stuff hidden. And then if we can start soothing anxiety rather than having to manage it, we can have just a lot more interesting lives. We can interview interesting people on our podcast. You can go live in Bali. I can go live in Mexico. We can talk to that pretty woman that makes us anxious. We can just do the things that lead to a really interesting, fun, enjoyable life if we can soothe our anxiety to take the action.
Yeah, I love hearing that. And I mean, there's so much here, but one of the things that I'm really curious as well to hear about is a thing that I often heard from you is that I'm a recovering nice guy, and there is this understanding that aspect of you will always be present. And I see that as well, especially now as I'm seeking to up level, I'm noticing that certain nice guy tendencies want to come in. Like even just mentioning to a few close friends of mine, I'm going to have a conversation with Dr. Robert Glover, and then just noticing as well the validation
Did you get
coming
some
my
ego
way.
in that? Yeah.
I tried not to, but like I mean, I was just excited, right?
Yeah.
But
you're human. You're human. I did.
Totally.
I did the same thing when Mark Manson agreed to come on my show. I couldn't wait to tell Mark Manson's going to come on the show. The same thing. I had a little bit of anxiety of asking Mark Manson to come on the show. So that's normal. All right, we're human. I think maybe one of the maybe a biggest piece of any kind of recovery, nice guy or any other, it's just learning to accept we're human and let go of the judgment of having an ego, of having anxieties. For example, we'll always be attracted to pretty women, and pretty women will always make us anxious. Okay. That just makes us human. All right. Well, probably anytime we reach out to somebody that we go, oh, that surely they're not going to want to come on my show. And we reach out anyway, we're going to feel anxiety. When they say yes, we're going to go, holy shit, they're coming on the show. That's okay. We're human, right? And so a big part of our nice guy recovery, my wife's letting the dog in and taking off. Nala's going to come hang out with me. That's my beautiful little pit bull that likes to lie at my feet while I do interviews.
I was looking forward to meeting her.
Yeah, right? Yeah. She's sometimes she'll go walk around the room, you can see her, but she just laid down underneath my chair. So Nala's here. Yeah, she's probably more famous than I am. People go, I wonder if Nala will come on my show. So I forgot what I was talking about. But that's human. Okay, that non-judgmental observer of self. So what I've found, because a lot of guys will say, Robert, how long will it take me to get over this nice guy syndrome? I don't know. I'll let you know when I get over mine. Yeah, and I've been working on it close to 30 years. I'm getting too old to do the math on it anymore, and it still comes up. And I tend to see it in some areas more significantly than others, but for me, a lot of it, comes up in relationship. My wife and I, Lupita, have been married 7.5 years. Great woman, treats me like gold, just very loving. And she's got her wounding. She's got her baggage. She's Mexican. She's typical jealous Latina. Every man she's ever known in her life has been a serial cheater, right? So that's her vision of men. They all cheat. They all lie to you. They cheat on you. That's just what men do. Her dad did it. Her brothers do it. Every boyfriend she's had, every guy she's ever known, they all cheat. So then she gets with me and marries me. And I've been there. I've done that. And, went to work on that as an issue in myself. And, I'm committed to not be that guy. I don't want to hurt myself. I don't want to hurt her. I don't want to hurt other people because I've done it. But her wiring is, all men check out other women's asses and they all want to go fuck them and they all want to go cheat, blah, 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 blah. So she has a ruminating brain too. So she can get caught up and just start building these thoughts up in her mind. And she can come up with some of the most amazing stories. Really? That's a pretty good story you cooked up there. But it used to really trigger my anxiety, and it still does at times. But it used to do it a lot more. So, I even got it back into getting a coach and getting into a men's program to work on my own soothing, because this was wired into my nervous system. So my wife will get this look on her face. I know she loves me. I know she's not going to leave me. She thinks I'm amazing. She has an amazing life. She's very loving. But, when she gets in that mindset, I must have a girlfriend. I must be fucking somebody else. And she knows it, right? She builds all this evidence in her head for it. And then she'll get withdrawn and she'll get this look on her face, just kind of this downturn of her mouth. I can't even do it. And that look just triggers something really big in me. Now, I've been watching it for long enough now and talking about it enough that it's kind of like it's losing its steam. But for a while there, it triggered an internal feeling state like I was going to die. So this is old. Whenever we have an emotional reaction in the moment that seems out of proportion to the moment, it's usually old. It's memory. It's in our nervous system. So, when this short little Mexican woman gets this scowl look on her face and I feel like I'm going to die. Now, she could kick my ass. I mean, she's a gym rat. She's done Muay Thai and kickboxing. So she is tough. She grew up, 8 out of 10 kids in poverty in Guadalajara, Mexico. So she could kick my ass, but she's not going to, right? But I get this feeling like I could die. So here's the kind of cool part now. That gives me a portal to go work on my old stuff that I'm still packing around in my nervous system. Will I ever get it out? Will I ever rewrite that? I don't know. I may. Every relationship dynamic gives us that chance to work through our old stuff. I've done some ayahuasca plant medicine. I haven't done MDMA or psilocybin, but, those might be helpful as well. There's lots of different ways now. You're a somatic therapist, so there's so many ways now to start rewiring the nervous system. And so what I would tell nice guys about, in terms of being a recovering nice guy, how about if we let go of any agenda that I got to, be 100%, recovered. That's kind of ego too in itself. Oh, I'm recovered now. To just say, you know what? I've just gotten better at being the observer, being the noticer, being the watcher. So now I notice my nervous system. I notice when my breathing gets shallow. I've noticed when my chest gets tight, when my shoulders hunch, when I'm like this. I notice when, my brain starts racing, when I go into sympathetic fight, flight, freeze. I notice it, and I've got tools. I can get grounded. I can breathe. I've got friends I can talk to. I can nurture that feminine side of myself that just needs to be taken good care of. I can scratch my dog behind her ears, go for a walk, sit in nature, float in the pool, whatever. I can soothe and calm myself if I can be the watcher and the noticer. Now, if I can't, if I don't notice and don't watch, I just have a reaction, whether it's withdrawal, reacting. Because usually when my wife got that look or withdrawn, I'd go, my first reaction would be talk her down, through, over. That's my superpower. Get an upset woman past being upset. Yeah, that's what I learned to do as a child. When that doesn't work and they hang on to this, I know you have a girlfriend. I know you're fucking some other puta. I know, this is all in Spanish, right? All in Spanish. So, and then when I can't talk her off that ledge and talk some sanity into her, then I blow up. Then I get angry. Then I say hurtful things. Then I'm mean, to a woman that I really do love. So those are all reactions tied into a nervous system that's unobserved. When it's observed, we can slow that. Kind of Viktor Frankl said, from between stimulus and response, where there's a space. And in that space is our power to choose whether we respond or react to it. And in that is I think he says, our growth and our freedom, right? So this is maybe what we'll spend the rest of our lives doing, just being the observer of what triggers reactions in us and go, hey, that's interesting. Wonder what that's about. And then, without judgment, learn to soothe it, pay attention to it, listen to it, see what it's about.
Yeah, I love this so much in what you said. And I would love to transition a little bit into relationships. And I would love to hear, what is it about nice guys that don't help them succeed in love, dating, and relating? And if you can as well touch a little bit into covert contracts, I think that would be something that is incredibly illuminating as well for our guests, our listeners.
Yeah, they're guests, right? Yeah, there are.
Yeah, of course.
Why not? Yeah, they're hanging out with us. You're in your home, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm in my home there, I guess.
That's it.
Let's talk about covert contracts first.
Sure.
This is one of the, I think for me, one of the most powerful takeaways of No More Mr. Nice Guy. A lot of people tell me that because it really lets me pay attention to my behavior. So a covert contract, pretty much everything nice guys do is through a covert contract. Covert just means hidden, right? And so there's three primary covert contracts. I'm going to spell them out even more clearly than I do in No More Mr. Nice Guy. So covert contract number one is if I'm a good guy. They're all if-then propositions, and they all have strings attached. If I'm a good guy, then I will be liked and loved, and the people I desire to have sex with will want to have sex with me. Go read a few blogs. Go Google blogs, especially written by women, about nice guys and nice guy syndrome. They're all warning you, beware of the nice guy. Why? And some of them will even call it. They'll call it his covert contracts. They get it because he's using nice guy seduction. Oh, I'll listen to you talk about your problems. I'll be different than the bad men. Oh, I'll help you pay your car payment. I'll be there for you. And then all of a sudden he goes, you want to go out with me? She goes, oh, no, we're friends. Well, I do all this for you. And then all of a sudden he's like, having that victim puke, and he's not so nice. That's a covert contract. He was doing all those nice things, that nice guy seduction, so that she would like him and want to be his girlfriend and ideally have sex with him. And when she didn't know there was a contract, she just thought, oh, this poor soul listens to me talk for hours at a time. This poor soul, pays my car payment. This poor soul will come pick me up when I'm drunk in a bar and don't have money to pay my tab. But the guy thinks that's going to pay off at some point. She's just thinking, well, he's nice. Maybe he's a little bit of a sucker, but he's nice. So there's covert contract number one. If I'm a good guy, then I'll be liked and loved, and the people I desire will desire me back. Covert contract number two. This is insidious. If I read your mind and meet your needs without you having to ask, then you will read my mind and meet my needs without me having to ask. Okay, several problems with this one. Number one is I don't really know what you need. I'm going to probably give you what I need to give to you so you'll like me and appreciate me and give me stuff back. Might not be what you need at all whatsoever. Another problem is you don't know that I'm expecting you to read my mind and just guess what I need. Another problem is nice guys are terrible at expressing their needs. We just hope people figure them out. Oh, and then the clincher is nice guys are terrible at letting people give to them. Most of us as children develop this internal belief, self-limiting belief, I'm bad for having needs. I'm bad for having wants. If people find out I have needs and wants, they'll leave me. They'll punish me. They'll hurt me. Everybody else's needs and wants are more important than my own. Everybody else's needs have to be met before mine can be met. So all that baggage is wrapped up in nice guys. So while we're giving to others so they'll give back, we don't let them, right? And then we're pissed off because they're not meeting our needs. Covert contract number three. If I do everything right, then I will have a smooth, problem-free life. That is kind of the Peter Pan-ish mentality of the nice guy. I do it right. I go the speed limit. I pay my taxes. I should have a bank account of good deeds that nobody ever gets upset at me. Nothing ever goes wrong. God, what's wrong? I did everything you asked, But the problem is life is chaotic. There is no smooth, problem-free life. So it's this really childlike, it's not fair. Nice guys say that a lot. It's not fair. No, it's not. But, every parent's ever had a kid repeats that daily. Life's not fair. It's not, but nice guys don't get that. So these covert contracts lead to a lot of frustration. One way I tell guys when they say, well, how do I know if I'm using a covert contract? I say, you'll know because you'll frequently feel frustrated and resentful. And it's not fair, right? That'll come up. It's not fair. I give to her. How come she doesn't give back? It's not fair. How come I do this and there's all hell to pay, but she does it and it should be okay, right? Or she can call me out on this, but if I call her out on the same thing, I get punished for it, right? That's all that unfairness of the nice guy covert contracts, okay? So if you can imagine trying to create a relationship while everything you do, your agendas, these covert contracts, is secret. I'm trying to, I want you to be my best friend, but I keep it a secret. what I'm doing. So instead, I just try to do nice things for you. I try to impress you. I hang out with you. I do the things you like doing. I do all of this hoping that you'll like me back and be my friend and be there for me and maybe come do some of the things I like doing, but I won't tell you that. Right? Now, add to that, going back to all these wounds we got as children, I mentioned we're all armored up. Really good book. I love this book called The Wisdom of No Escape by Pema Chodron. It's a series of, she's a Buddhist monk. And I think she has this, I don't know what it's called, a monastery, something. I think it's in Nova Scotia, Eastern Canada. And you can find her on YouTube. She's this, really cool lady with a shaved head. Yeah. So in the book, she talks about how we're trying to relate to each other, with all this armor. And then she's really humorous. She talks about some people are going to have to unzip their armor here. Some people have to unlace it. Some people need, these, heavy duty, shears to welding torch to cut it off, and, our weaponry. And, it's kind of like that song, Hallelujah by Leonard Cohen. One of the lines is, all I learned from love is how to shoot someone who outdrew you. So, if I see you drawing your gun, I'm going to shoot you first, right? That's how most of us try to do relationship. So you're doing it that way. Anybody you meet's doing it that way. I'm doing it that way. Anybody we meet's doing it that way. Then add this into the mix. I think it was Pia Melody who was, I think it was her. She wrote stuff on codependency. I think it was her that said, we tend to be attracted to people who have some of the worst traits of both of our parents. Oh yeah, you think, oh man, that's what we do, right? And everybody else is doing it. So you're getting attracted. I'm amazingly attracted to unhappily married women. Why? Well, my first love object was an unhappily married woman, my mother, right? So I was supposed to go rescue her from the bad man who didn't love her adequately, and she was married to him till he died about 11 years ago. So if a woman is unhappy and it's got a string of bad relationships, oh man, that's in my wheelhouse. I'm so attracted to that. I can be the good guy. I can make that better. Now, my dad, was moody. You never knew who you're coming home to. Could be angry like that. Totally irrational about his. Guess what? I'm attracted to women that have that kind of mood response, just like my dad. That you go. You think, why would we do that? But why we do it is that when we're children, to manage these essential relationships with our earliest caregivers, mom and dad, we develop toolbox, relationship tools to put in our toolbox. And we use those tools to try, as little children, to try to manage the big people. Maybe it was lying. Maybe it was smiling a lot. Maybe it was being needless and wantless. Maybe it was being funny. Maybe it was being loving and affectionate. Maybe it was never coming out of our room. Whatever it is we did to manage those relationships, the relationships we create as an adults, we're going to pick people that those tools, we can use those tools. Now, if we get somebody and that tool, that doesn't work on them, well, that tool doesn't work on them either. So we don't know what to do, so we move on. Till we find somebody, that tool works. Being funny, that worked. Oh, hiding out in my room. Oh, that one worked. Cutting her down and, making her feel bad when I feel out of control. That one worked. So we're going to use the tools we've got in our toolbox, and we're all armored up, and we got the weaponry to make sure they don't draw on us first. And we're trying to get love. We're trying to get love. And add to that, dating, courting, and pair-bonded, lifelong, monogamous relationships is not in human DNA. Our ancestors didn't do any of that stuff. Okay? All right. Let's take the lifelong pair-bonded relationships. 1.5 million years, we were tribal. Everything was communal. Mother Nature likes lots of penises and lots of vaginas. I often say monogamy is evolutionary sin. Now, people come from a religious point of view. I'm not saying that religiously, but from evolution, Mother Nature liked a lot of penis and a lot of vaginas. Monogamy is not good for the diversity of any species, okay? So for 1.5 million years, we shared everything. We didn't have to date. We didn't have to marry. We didn't have to go hang out in a house with one woman all our life. The guys were out hunting and gathering and warring, and the women were kind of raising the kids and, talking and gossiping and stuff. I'm oversimplifying. But the men and women didn't spend that much time together, but they still all had sexual access. about 10,000 years ago, a few of our really bright male ancestors invented the patriarchy, where they said, well, instead of being communal and sharing everything, I'm going to settle down, own this piece of land, own a goat, own a tree, own my woman, and own her kids. They could own the kids that come out of her. So we started this ownership model of relationship. But back then, it's for the last 10,000 years, long-term relationships were purely economic. Let's get together because that's the best way to survive and have sexual access. Okay. And most people didn't live very long. You know, back in the day, if you lived to 21, 25, if you lived to child reproducing age, that was probably an event. Okay. So people did not live together for 50, 60, 70 years and try to get along with each other. So, and even up to about to World War II, men and women didn't spend that much time together. Men were going off to work, whereas mainly men. Either they're going to the farm or once with industrialization, we started going to factories. Still mostly men. It wasn't until World War II when men went off to fight wars and women went into the factories. When men came back, the women were still there. Now men and women started even just working together for the first time in human history. The whole idea of romantic love has only been around maybe less than 200 years. I'm told Shakespeare wrote Romeo and Juliet to show the fallacy of romantic love. We love each other so much, let's kill ourselves, right? That makes sense. Yeah. Haven't most people fallen in love with somebody so much, I just want to see them day and night, and then later when they break up or go through a divorce, the mean things we say to each other on social media, the attorneys we hire to just screw the other one over, right? All of that stuff is with people we claim to have loved, okay? So this whole dating thing, I still work with people today who have arranged marriages. I work with people from the East that their marriages were arranged by their parents and family. It still goes on. So our parents and grandparents probably, they probably met and married their best friend's brother or sister or somebody they went to church with or went to school with. Nowadays, we've got hookup culture, we got swipe right apps, we got pickup boot camps, we've got online dating, we got everything. And for the first time since we started recording these statistics, over half of all adults 35 and under report not having been in a relationship for the last year. Over half of all men, I think it's 25 and younger, report not having had sex in the last year. That's the people who are supposed to be having sex. If anybody's supposed to be having sex, Mother Nature wants like 16 to 22-year-olds to be having a lot of sex. They got the best sperm. They got the best DNA to pass on. Guys my age, my DNA is broken. Mother Nature doesn't want me passing it on, right? So we're trying to do something that's not natural. That's why it's hard. That's why religions get invented to try to get people to do it. We're going to, either threaten you with eternal damnation in hell if you don't do it, or, stone you, something like that. Because if it was easy, we'd just do it. If it was easy, we'd find somebody we loved and we'd just be with them forever. But it's not easy because it's not natural. Now, can we do it? Yeah, there's lots of parts of this we can do. And I'm a big fan of conscious dating, conscious courting, conscious relationship. It's the consciousness that turns something that's not natural, that's inherently difficult for us. It turns it into what I borrowed this term from David Snarch, who wrote Passionate Marriage. It turns relationships into powerful personal growth machines because it's not natural. We talk about making a commitment to somebody. You don't have to make a commitment to something that comes easy. You ever notice that? If you're a gym rat, you don't have to commit to going to the gym. You go to the gym. If you like surfing, you don't have to commit to surf. You just go surf. If you love learning, you have to make a commitment to learn. You just go learn. It's only the things that don't come easily or naturally or that we don't enjoy that we have to make a commitment to. And think about it. We all have to make a commitment to long-term relationship. That in itself should be proof they're not easy or natural or often enjoyable. Otherwise, we wouldn't have to commit. We would just go do them.
If I could just jump in here, Robert, I've heard you mention in the past that we're here to get our hearts broken. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Oh, that's my favorite subject, at least my favorite subject of the day. I mentioned that plant medicine, ayahuasca, And I got invited 3 or 4 years ago, during COVID, and it got bounced a couple of times to come down to Costa Rica, and be a guest speaker at a plant medicine retreat center called Rhythmia. And I told them, I've never done plant medicine. I've never done anything stronger than pot. They go, oh, come, just do it at least twice. We just want you to be an influencer. We're going to have an all men's week. We just want we want you to be there for the all men's week. So I went down, and they let me bring my wife. She's the only woman there doing the ayahuasca with about 60 guys. They would kind of put her off to the side. And I had 4 different, very different ceremonies, all of them amazingly impactful. But one of them, I came out of it without going into detail, because if you go do ayahuasca, psilocybin, MDMA, don't tell people your experience. They don't want to hear. It's not going to make sense to them. We just want to tell them, but it's like trying to describe God. It's ineffable. There's no words we can use to describe God. But the takeaway is that we're here to get our heart broken. And I know that maybe sounds kind of simplistic, but if you think about it, if there's anything that is so good that it could break our heart, isn't it so good we wouldn't want to miss it? And so think about the things that have broken your heart, whether it was a pet you loved that passed, whether it was just your favorite car or motorcycle that you just loved till it got stolen or got crashed. Maybe it was a relationship. Maybe it was a best friend. Maybe it was a parent. They passed away. They died. Maybe it was even someone that left us, cheated on us, and went off with somebody else. If it can break our heart, it had to have been, something about it had to have been really good. Otherwise, it wouldn't break our heart. We just go, I didn't really care about that car. I didn't really care about that woman. I didn't care about that parent. If it didn't hurt at all, there probably wasn't much there that you had a fond connection to, that you had a bond to. So, I mentioned Nala. She's down here at my feet. And I use her as the example. Because in that ayahuasca ceremony, it did involve dogs. She's just a walking love magnet. Everybody that comes in my house loves this dog, and she loves everybody. I do a workshop in here with 8 guys. She'll during a weekend workshop, she'll just take turns sleeping at each guy's feet, while we're in here doing the work. And every now and then she'll kind of get up, pick up one of her toys, and start poking the guy with it. She don't even know these people. They came here to love her and play with her. And my wife and I both acknowledged how much pain we'll have when she goes away. Both my wife and I have had to put a dog to sleep. Her when she's a child, us when I was an adult. I still get teary-eyed thinking about when I put my Shih Tzu Bandit to sleep, several years ago. And I'm so glad I got Bandit from the pound, and I had him in my life. And at some point, he left, broke my heart. And Nala's going to break our hearts. Either that will break her hearts. If one of us will go away, she will be devastated. If my wife and I take a trip, she's depressed. Well, really, she sleeps in the same room with us. We take her for a walk every day. My wife is always making noises and talking to her. I can always tell when my wife's in a good mood because she's just making all kinds of noises. And then Nala just loves being in here in my office with me. She just loves being close. And so we're going to get hurt. Okay. So what we do with that, most of us, that's why we guard up. That's why we put on the armor. That's why we protect ourselves. That's why we keep love at a distance, because we know it's going to hurt us. It's going to. It's guaranteed. Promise you. Another thing that David Snart said in Passionate Marriage is that in every relationship, somebody's going to get left. I remember when I read that for the first time, I thought, that's fucking liberating. A lot of people read it and go, that's terrible. It's liberating. Now we don't have to hold on so tight. The whole premise of Buddhism is of manifestation and unmanifestation. Manifestation, last time I did ayahuasca, I said, okay, my intention was, Mother, show me God and show me my eternal soul. And then all of 5 minutes, I got this download. It's just water and waves. We're just the ocean. That's everything is the ocean. And this human existence is just a wave that manifests and unmanifests. I go, that's it? Yeah, drink that terrible tasting stuff and that's it. But is it? So everything's manifesting, unmanifesting. That's just the core basis, of the philosophy of Buddhism. Jesus taught, don't worry about it. The kingdom of God is now. It's right now. It's here. Be in the now with it. And so what I suggest doing is, rather than armoring up, protecting ourselves against future hurt, is accept we're going to get hurt. We're going to get our hearts broken. And so I make sure several times a day, Nala knows how much I love her. Take her walking in the park, throw balls, I get on the floor. I'll put my forehead against her forehead. I'm often scratching behind her ears. I talk to her. I tell her how much I love her, in English and Spanish. She's bilingual. Multilingual, actually, she speaks dog too. But, I just love on her. Now, I try to do the same thing with my wife. I scratch her behind the ears, tell her how much I love her. And, I let her know daily how much she's loved. I have 2 stepkids. I hug them every day. I tell them I love them every day. I have a son. I have a granddaughter. I have a mother who'll be 89 next month. I let them know as often as I can how much I love them, how important they are to me. I spend time with them when I can. I connect with them as much as I can. My friends, I'm in touch with them, just regularly. I'm sending text messages on Zoom with them. A buddy of mine, I spoke at his men's program online a week or 2 ago. And at the end of it, he says, Robert is unique. And this teared me up. He said, Robert is one of those people that no matter how long it's been since you've talked to him, no matter like how shitty and off the grid you were, no matter how few messages you return, Robert's still reaching out, still connecting. And he goes, and everybody I know that knows Robert says the same thing about him. I thought, oh, that's what they're saying about me. I didn't know that, but I do. I let the people I know love them. I've got 2 guys that work for me. One of them's in Pune, India, so he's on a whole different time. He goes to sleep in my afternoon, and when I get up, he's already been up for a while. My other close employees in Mexico as well. We all tell each other we love each other when we tell each other good night. We're posting the hearts to each other. My wife used to say, who are you sending messages to? Do you have a girlfriend? Who are those hearts to? And I go, it's a buddy. If it has hearts, it's a friend. It's a buddy. She goes, oh. So she don't even accuse me of that anymore. If she sees hearts, she just goes, that's just my husband sending lots of love to all of his buddies. So love the people you love. Let them know. Open to them. Know that they're human. Know that they're going to hurt you. Know that they're going to be less than perfect. Know that either you're going to leave them or they're going to leave you, and it may be nobody's fault. And be willing to just feel the depth of what that feels. But that's why we're here. Otherwise we're just walking through life like zombies, guarded, protected, not risking, not taking chances, fearful. Why live that way? So there you go. There's my little mini TED talk about we're here to get our heart broken. How's that?
No, I absolutely love this. And the first time I heard you speak about it as well, it was just so incredibly touching as well for me. And it definitely struck a chord as well in me. And just as well, reflecting on all the little moments and all the ways of how I've attempted as well to protect myself. And, the moments when I felt most fulfilled was really, truly the moment where I just let all of that go. Yeah. And I just really allowed myself to, get my heart broken, as you said.
Yeah. And that's when you're the most attractive and the most sexy and the most, desirable. See, we don't get that. We nice guys, so we got to guard all that. And then we got to try hard to get people to be attracted to us. No, put it all down and be you. And just be you. And then you notice that, people are looking your way. People are talking to you. People want to be around you because you're you. Yeah, let the guard down.
I love that. I want to honor our time together, Robert. So just got a few closing questions, sure. And then we can let our listeners know as well where
our guests. Remember, they're our guests.
Our guests, exactly.
Yeah. They're going to be sending us little heart emoticons.
Absolutely. One thing I'm really curious to hear about is you've been working with men for decades. And from what I know as well, you're in your late 60s. So first of all, 68. I would love to hear 68. Yeah. All right. Thank you for clarifying. I'm curious to hear, what have you come to know about the masculine spirit, having worked with men for decades? And what do you love about working with men?
All right, that's 2 questions. What do I know? I know men need other men, and we need the love of other men, right? We need initiation, we need support, we need accountability, we need community. We need that from men. All of our ancestors have had that. It's only been the last, let's say, 60 to 70 years of human existence that we've gotten away from that. Again, prior to probably World War II, men were much more connected with other men. Okay, so I'm not saying let's go back to a patriarchal model, but let's keep evolving, but let's not toss away that need for connection with men. We need tribe. It's wired into our DNA. What do I love about working with men? Let me say, I guess, two things. One is I can hit them upside the side of the head with a big stick, and they thank me for it. I've worked with men and women for many years. Women, you got to be kind of nice to them in doing therapy and coaching. I even had a first woman interviewee on Integration Nation the other day, Karen Brody. She wrote a book called Open Her. And I asked her at the very beginning, I said, I'm going to give you your choice. I can throw some kind of softballs into you, lob them in, or I can bring a little bit of occasional high heat. And I said, do I have your permission? And she goes, well, what do you mean by high heat? And I go, let me lob a few softballs first. So, but with a guy would say, oh, bring it, high and tight. Give me your best shot, But the woman's going, I don't know what that's going to involve. Okay. So it's okay with guys. I I co-wrote a book with one of my coaches, The Big Stick. And the coach named it because he said, Robert, do you know how often you say the big stick, when you're talking about men? I go, yeah, I guess I do. And men like it that when you're direct with them and when you point out what's not working and what can be done better. And they appreciate that. The other piece I love about working with men is just that love component. The whole other podcast would be on masculine as the source of love. Feminine is the seeker, the pursuer of love. That means masculine is a source of love. So that means if you want to experience depth of love, you experience it from the energetic masculine side of a person, not the feminine side. Feminine side is seeking love. It's a consumer of love. So when I'm around men and I just get to be me as a guy, and like I said, just the love and the depth of that love between men, that, men will go to war and they'll die for each other. That's love. That's love. Right? Maybe it's stupid, but it's still love. So I love that part about men. For years, no matter what relationship I've been in, when I go off and spend time with guys, come back home, the woman I'm with always says, I'm so attracted to you. Something's different about you. And often is, I want to fuck your brains out. And I'm not sure why. It's because I've been with men and I've embraced my masculine. I've embraced their love, the love of my masculine, and these feminine creatures in my life just want that. They just want to soak that up. So I just love that love dynamic between men.
Thanks for sharing that. And yeah, it feels really as well special to hear that from you, considering that you've been working with men for many decades. Robert, I want to start wrapping up and just want to give you as well an opportunity to speak to Integrated Nation and then as well tell our guests where they can find you.
All right. Yellow product placement for Integration Nation. That's actually water. It's not coffee. In answer to your questions about, what do men need? What do I know about men? What do they love? And why I like working with them is that men do need community. We need tribe and we need masculine initiation. Our ancestors had masterful men initiate them into the frightening, challenging world of the masculine. Nowadays, we don't get that. Most men hang out in the nursery, not really living up to our potential, playing video games, surfing the internet, jacking off to porn, binging on Netflix, smoking dope, drinking, eating, just nothing to really challenge us. And we're really dependent on the approval of women. Our ancestors, when they went through a masculine initiation, the men took them away from their mothers, took them out, taught them to face their fear, get comfortable being uncomfortable, and then they got to be part of the tribe of men. They were taken out of the tribe of women. That doesn't happen to men nowadays. So I'm a big believer we need community. We need support. We need to be held accountable. We need places to go be loved and supported and just connected with men. So I decided, maybe somewhat foolishly in my mid 60s, to start a membership program for men. And I brought in, right now, I got about 25 of my certified coaches working with it, mostly on a volunteer basis. My goal is to build the world's largest online program for men that any man in the world can be a part of it. And we just launched in July of 23. Just another 100 men came in again last week. We let men in once a month for 72 hours. Another 100 guys came in. We're well over 500 now. And I think at some point it's going to have that hockey stick kind of growth, because men need it. Men, I talk about it on programs like this, and men just come and they say, hey, I saw you on that podcast. I want to check it out. And we've got a platform for men, kind of a timeline, kind of a social media platform that's not Facebook. We don't let Mark Zuckerberg steal our data. We built it. And it's like social media used to be before you got bombarded with ads and fake news and, just all the bullshit of social media. We just share with each other. We don't post anybody else's YouTube videos. We just talk about us. We just counted this week. Included in what we call the gold package of Integration Nation, your basic membership, you have access to over 50 virtual calls a month. Over 50, led by me, my coaches, just all kinds of calls, all different times of day and night around the world to help men connect with other men. We're about to launch local in-person meetups around the world where members can just, put something on our calendar, say, we're going to go pick up garbage in Moscow this weekend. We're going to go play, Frisbee golf in London this weekend. Where guys, if they live in that area, they can go connect. So it really is to just build that tribe and connection, because, I'm not going to be around forever. And this is my legacy. I want to leave something behind that men do have that place to go connect. And it's been beautiful. Every time we have one of our onboarding enrollment periods, just watching the men come in from all over the world, literally all over the world, names I can't pronounce, every color of skin, every race, every creed. I just fucking love it. So here I am at 68, when most men are probably retired, dead, or, playing golf or watching Fox News all day. And, I'm just working my ass off and having a good time, talking to people like you, having my calls with Integration Nation, doing my coaching. And, I just made a decision a year or so ago, I think I got another 20 good years in me. So I'm in it. I'm in it for the next 20 years. And, Lord willing, let's do it. And I kind of got a feeling I can make good on that. So, so that's what this part of my life's about. So if I give a good 20-something years to Integration Nation and hand it off to other good men to keep it going, I'll be happy. So just, guys want to check out integrationnation.net and just go register your email, and we'll send you a personal invitation and walk you through the whole process.
Dr. Robert Glover, everybody. That sounds amazing. Thank you so much. Is there anything else that you would like to bring our listeners in awareness to, or any other place that they can check out just to find out more about you?
Well, they can check out drglover.com. It's just drglover.com. And that we're actually in the process of rebuilding it. So it's a little messy right now, but it'll soon be rebuilt. So that's where all of my courses are, podcasts, workshops. We're just launching a new 6-month No More Mr. Nice Guy Coach certification program. Got our first enrollee today. We're going to launch that in April. People can come start and insert in that anytime in a 6-month cycle. So we're excited about launching that coach certification and mentorship program. So all of that's on drglover.com. So go check it out.
Yeah. Sounds amazing. Robert, I'm so grateful. I absolutely love this conversation.
Aren't you glad you asked?
Very humbled and very honored. Absolutely. I'm happy that I asked, and there's so much that I actually wanted to get into, such as, toxic, like internalized shame through sexuality and like dating, seduction, all those things. So, we didn't get a chance to really go into that, but I really am very grateful about this incredible conversation we've had, and I hope to as well see you on in the future.
Yeah. Thank you for the invitation. It was fun, and let's do it again.
All right. Amazing. Well, for our listeners, I hope you got a lot of value out of this conversation.
They're our guests, remember?
Absolutely. Thanks for reminding me. Yeah. Feel free to reach out to both of us if for any key insights, any takeaways, and if you have any questions. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you for listening to this episode. Your time and attention is truly appreciated. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to subscribe to stay tuned for my upcoming episodes. And in case you know somebody who would find this episode helpful, I encourage you to pay it forward. Finally, if you've personally been receiving value from the show, one way you're able to support this podcast is by leaving a 5-star rating and a written review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Not only does this help more people find the show, but it also supports me in bringing more incredible guests on for the future. I'm your host, Alex Lehman, and until next time, signing off.